There's a ham radio schematic here, something Brian was working on.
Yeah, I think that was the one thing Ned did do with him. You know, tinkering on stuff like that.
There's also a postcard here from Brian to, I guess, his neighbor.
What's it say?
That he's with his dad and sorry he can't mow his lawn this summer.
Oh, gosh.
And also he was worried his dad didn't know when school started. I'd say that's a lucky break if I were him.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Ned didn't really seem like a, with it dad. What do you think is in there?
I don't know, really. I mean, we gotta find out. What do you think?
Whatever it is, they don't want you telling anyone about.
I mean, they closed the door when they could have just...
Bashed your head in with a rock or chopped you up with a
Are you serious with this shit right now?
hatchet. God, are you sure you want to go back in there?
Honestly, I just want to know. I want to know what is worth doing everything that's been done to us.
Yeah, me too. And not going to jail would be a nice kicker.
Hey, it's Patrick and Nels here.
Hello.
You may have just found some role-playing game artifacts owned by Brian Goodwin, and I thought we could talk about the ways that this character evolved and actually ended up incorporating a lot of elements of our own super nerdy childhoods.
Oh, yes, that's exactly right.
Like Gladius Silva here, it was...
Good old Gladius Silva was actually the very first D&D character I ever made in probably grade 8, maybe grade 9. My very first D&D campaign. Some other friends of mine on the speech team, the speech debate team, asked me to join their game, and I was very enamored that they invited me. So I had to make a cool character. So I made a half-elf ranger, and because I was a giant dorko and taking a Latin class at the time, I named him Gladius Silva, which of course means sword of the forest. And I remember when we were initially talking about, like giving Brian kind of this geeky kid personality to contrast with the fact that he's like out in the middle of the wilderness. And I recounted this anecdote about Gladius Silva. Everybody in the office thought it was quite hilarious. And because I had, for my own edification a while back, rescued that character sheet from like my parents' garage and then scanned it, I was able just to send over a PDF of that scanned character sheet, and then it more or less showed up exactly in the game.
Yeah, these are probably your original die rolls from that faded first campaign.
Oh, it was modified just the tiniest bit to like avoid Wizards of the Coast's Dungeons and Dragons copyright. Otherwise, that is literally just my dude. My favorite thing about Brian's proclivity for tabletop RPGs is in Henry's Tower in Two Forks, you can actually find a map that Brian made that's basically like a D&D-ification of the whole area that you're normally in.
Yeah, I ended up drawing that completely based on my own style of drawing when I was Brian's age, and Nels' age. When he was Gladius Silva, I was a city kid who moved to a more like suburban, like woodsy area at that age in my life, and I was so shocked to have all this like actual like woodsy terrain around me that I started mapping it with pencil and paper and drawing little legends just like Brian did, kind of turning the area into more of a mythical landscape. So as soon as this character had gelled, I knew that he would see Two Forks this way, and that cash boxes would be treasure chests and the Boy Scout camp would be a halfling village. And so it kind of just wrote itself.
Yeah, totally. That is our tiny tidbit of geek history in Firewatch by way of Brian Goodwin's Gladius Silva.
Hey, it's Chris again.
Hey, it's Sean, and you are in a clearing just beyond the body of a dead elk, and nearby there's a cassette tape from Dave to Ron. I get them confused the way I get
Yeah.
like lots of pairs of characters confused and things that I didn't write.
Yeah.
It's a recording of the song Ol Shoshone as performed and composed by Chris, who's sitting here, but as written by as performed in the fiction of the game by
Ron or Dave.
based on the lyrics that are discoverable in the outhouse
Rest.
at
Oh,
Hawk's
yeah,
Rest,
yeah.
that were written by Raccoon Carter. I wrote the song as lyrics, and then the whole Ron Dave saga I left for myself till later.
You wrote those lyrics before we actually had the idea of making it a
Yeah.
real song in the game.
Exactly right.
Yeah. That whole arc collided with a totally separate design idea, which was to have a like a non-diegetic piece of music that was playing on top of the game at a particular moment. We really liked the idea of that generally. Have an actual song with singing and lyrics in it punctuate a particular moment, but we just never really landed on a song that we thought worked or a particular way to integrate it into the narrative that like wasn't going to stomp on the open nature of the game, and it just we just sort of languished for a while until I guess it was your idea. I can't even remember.
I remember it being my idea only because I remember being really bashful about it, because it was like I had never written a song before, and I really, really, really wanted you to compose music and record it. But like, I was worried that it was bad, and also like making your friend and coworker do this thing that you wouldn't tell me it was a bad idea. I was worried you wouldn't tell me it was a bad idea.
That's so funny because I read that as like you just didn't really.
Oh, really?
I read that as like, oh, you can do this if you want, but I don't know if that's.
No, I just didn't want to like. It felt like so I've read a song and you're gonna perform it.
Right.
Like it just did not feel like I was like, oh. So I was really like feeling that like. Then when you delivered it, I would like start crying. I was like alone and just like got like welled up, and I was like, oh man, that feels good. And I
it
was
was
really
so
excited
fun.
to play the game.
I was really happy to get to do that on the
Oh,
game.
good. I'm glad.
It was really
I didn't
fun.
know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great.
Yeah, worked out.
And it's available on the soundtrack, which you can buy at thestore.camposanto.com or from our Steam page.
Brian Goodwin.
Hi, it's Jake again.
And Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Jake. This area is one of the only areas in the game where we really let ourselves play up, sort of dressing a set in a really overtly theatrical and dramatic way. You know, this is the reveal of Brian's body was such a big moment that we kind of figured we should just go for it entirely.
It was possible to do because I think this is one of the only places in Firewatch where the direction from which the player approaches and the time of day are 100% in our control. Like, you're only ever going to see this scenario under this circumstance. You're going to walk in and sort of the scene will reveal itself from this angle, and there's no chance that the sun is going to be setting in the middle of it or whatever else. So we leaned into it.
I kind of ran with that with the music as well. As you know, if you've listened to all the music in this game, I really didn't lean on big string swells or anything like that. It's very kind of small scale recordings, you know, guitar and electric piano and bass and things like that. I decided to just push this as far as possible. I did one odd thing with the music, which was instead of what you'd expect, which was making the music a really minor dark key, it's actually all in major, which is typically what people associate with happier, more upbeat music, but I pushed the strings far enough that I was hoping it would sort of come around the other side and make something that's kind of, I don't know, poignant. So
It's cool. I like it.
Thanks.
Fun fact about this area, if you bring a notable Brian Goodwin possession down into this space, you can set it down next to him using the game's putback system.
One Russian streamer found that live on like the day the game came out.
Yeah, by accident, and
it was amazing.
That guy's stream blew up.
Yep.
I came up with this character, Delilah, and then just thrust her upon you and said, you are going to be Delilah in this video game. I liked working with you on The Walking Dead. You were amazing as Katya. How did that character come to life for you?
Well, actually, I think her name was Alice at first, if you'll recall.
Oh, no, it was.
You remember that?
Oh, it was Alice. Oh, no. What a hilarious thing to have to remember.
I remember getting that email from you about, hey, I'm writing a game, female protagonist, are you in? And I didn't even have to think twice about it. I knew whatever you're working on, whenever, throughout history and time, I will want to be a part of. But then you sent me the sides for Alice, and I got to read about this beautifully flawed but fun and self-engaged woman. And it's one of the things I love about the characters that you write is that they're actual people. They're not tropes. They're not stereotypes of anything. They're full-bodied people. And so I got to dig a little bit into my past and what's made me tick and what would make me take a job in the middle of nowhere and shamelessly flirt with somebody over a walkie-talkie and build her from there. The wonderful thing about Delilah is that there's actually a lot of me in her, meaning like I grew up in Idaho. There are a lot of mountains and wildfires and solitude and stuff like that. I left and I moved to Los Angeles and now I'm surrounded by concrete, but I kind of started out in the same place.
I was integrating so much of the way you speak and the way you like tell a joke or laugh just back into the character. Do you feel like you had to create that stuff to be Delilah? Or were you making a concerted effort to sort of like become her?
I think it's a little bit of both. I am a bit of a smartass, and so a lot of the stuff that you wrote really lent itself to that. But as we started getting into the puns, wouldn't you liken to know and stuff like that, I was able to kind of sit back into this woman who just doesn't give a shit. She's out there in the middle of nowhere and having fun because this is her life. And so having that freedom to just be an idiot, it was really freeing. It was a lot of fun.
Hey, Dee.
There you are. I've been worrying my ass off.
You need to call search and rescue.
What?
There's a body in the cave. It's Brian Goodwin.
Gotta be fucking kidding me. How does that... What? I don't... How?
Climbing, I think, or made to look like a climbing accident.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I think that's just what it was. I mean, he was probably exploring the cave and maybe his rope gave out. Look, whoever locked me in there probably didn't even know about him. I'm sorry, Delilah. I'm so sorry.
He'd be alive if I'd told someone he was out here. I don't know where he'd be, but I can assure you it would not be rotting at the bottom of that cave. There's nothing to say. Hike back. I think we're leaving tomorrow anyway.
No, I was just busy packing up.
Well, there's gonna be a lot more. The service says this thing is 2% contained.
Well, is this the June fire or the site fire? Or...
Well, the two fires merged into one unmitigated disaster. They're renaming it after my lookout. You about packed up?
Shouldn't we talk for a sec, about things?
About what?
About what happened to Brian.
I don't have much to say. I'm fine. I'm sad. I'm whatever. I keep thinking about him down there, and I just want to get far away from here.
What can I do?
We just have to wait for the helicopters.
Okay.
Until then, could you follow that signal? Maybe?
Holy crap. Yeah, oh my god.
We don't know what it is. It could be nothing.
Yeah, it could also be whoever was listening to us, whoever made the tape.
Okay. Yeah, look, you should pack up everything you need in case we get the call and you can't come back.
All right, look, if something happens...
I'll remember you.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Hey, it's Chris again.
Hey, this is Ollie again.
Hey, Ollie.
Hey, Chris.
Where you are right now in the game represents by far the biggest change to sort of environmental ambience that we did in the whole game in terms of visuals and audio and everything else. It was just a totally different outdoor kind of vibe.
Yeah, it was really important that the end of the game felt very sort of climactic and exciting. And for the style of this, we actually looked at first-person views of like real forest fighting that had been recorded in Australia, and it was so intense. And the thought of like trying to hit that, like the benchmark had been set, right? So we had to try and get something that captured that feeling. I think we were all surprised by how close it got in the end.
Yeah, for sure. It was. I was really impressed.
Yeah, it was amazing how close we got to the original vision, given without special casing any tools. Like the tools that we had enabled us to get this effect like very quickly, and it was something I'd been putting off for a long time because I was really scared of being able to deliver something that felt, exciting. And then I remember bringing everyone into the room and going, guys, I think we got it.
Yeah,
I
that's
think we
awesome.
did it. Yeah.
On the audio system, I did have to special case a bunch of stuff, but what ended up happening was, because of the needs of this day, I ended up redoing the way audio ambience worked for the whole game to be able to support dropping elements in and out, which ended up being really useful retroactively for the earlier days when I went back and changed those. So, yeah.
Great.
What's your status?
I think I'm getting close.
All right, well, I just got word that they are coming to get us. My place.
You sound worried.
No, it's just...
Brian?
I'll coordinate with the evac team and let you know when to head towards the tram. It's north. Far. Past where you found that cut back in May. There's an emergency tram out there that will let you hike to the rendezvous point at my lookout.
Coming up on the end here, Jake.
It's true, we are.
You are about to hear or have currently heard the voice of Ned Goodwin, which we didn't know we were going to put into the game for a long, long time until we played it. Because originally it was like a note he left you.
We went back and forth early on, too. There was a moment, I think, where we said maybe one of the last conversations you'll have is with Ned Goodwin himself, who's off in the woods. Maybe you'll pick up the radio in his tower. Talked ourselves off that pretty quick, and then maybe he leaves you a note, sort of a confessional note.
But then we also sort of bounced off the note because you would find it and it just didn't have the oomph, and it didn't have the sort of cinematic nature of a conversation. And then we went, okay, well, is the response to that to like put Ned Goodwin in the scene? you're gonna meet the guy? And, like, thought about that for a minute. And then we said, well, you're gonna talk to him, and like, what are you gonna say to him? And then we actually found the middle ground, which was a recorded note, which is like was really great. It was like the thing that it never occurred to us because we had written notes and conversations. The idea of just essentially having an audio log did not like jump out at us for a few weeks, and then it was like, oh wait, you have a tape player.
He's
He
left
can
you
leave a
recordings
tape.
of yourself before. It seemed
Yeah,
like
it
it would track.
all connected, and I'm really happy with where we landed with it. And also, Mac Brandt is the voice of Ned Goodwin. We had so many auditions, and this happens all the time. You get a lot of very similar auditions, people trying to play someone a certain way, and then Mac put a little bit of a like kind of an East Coast accent on it, and
Yeah,
just
I remember not being sure about it at first, but you and Chris pushed for Mac, and I'm really glad that we did.
yeah, he was just a titan. He did
This
such
is
a great
a
job.
weird, goofy detail of just the sorts of things that you imagine in your head, but Goodwin leaving you this tape has meant that for me, my mental image of Ned Goodwin is that he has no one to talk to, but that like when he left the Shoshone, it was like with a backpack full of just tapes that he's recorded to himself, which obviously doesn't exist and the game doesn't say that, but now like the existence of that tape just painted that strange character detail into my brain. Now that it's on this commentary, is definitely
Purely canon.
Canon.
Someone left a rope for me to climb up. I'm down near the lake.
How do you know it's for you?
There's a tracking collar tied to it. Someone was leading me here. And there's another tape.
Oh my God, Henry.
Yeah, hi, Henry. Hey, you better find this before it burns up. We've been causing each other a lot of headaches. Now I gotta go stake out a site that's as fit for living as the one you're about to find. You'll get it when you see it. You can't blame me for keeping an eye on you. Not after bumping into you back in May. Down by the cave, for croc's sake. I've been up here for 3 years. I kept it cozy. Winters are harsh as hell, and I ran out of books. But I got that antenna rigged up, and Delilah, she's a record you don't gotta flip. I kinda get why Brian took to her. About a week ago, I stopped worrying about you finding anything out, and that's right when everything went shithouse with you two. You guys don't know anything about having kids. All right, nobody knows nothing. It ain't Andy and Opie walking down the lake to fish every afternoon. It ain't Mayberry. But you gotta know I didn't kill him. All right, we were climbing. I was teaching him. Brian was uneducated in the way to do anything. He just fucking didn't sink his anchor the right way. You know, I thought about going back, having to answer questions, and having to get him put in the ground, and I didn't see the point. Don't come looking for me. Sorry about your wife.
We found the surveillance operation.
Okay, what does that mean? What is it?
It was Ned Goodwin. He was the one listening to us. Just him.
Goodwin. He made the tape?
Yeah. He's gone. Deeper into the Shoshone. He doesn't want anyone to know he's out here.
Because he killed Brian. Because he killed his fucking son. You need to get back here. They say the helicopters are making rounds.
Okay. I guess he's been dumping trash up here for a while.
It is Nels once again,
And Jane is back.
and we're here outside of Goodwin's bunker is what we ended up calling it. This is kind of the weird hideaway that Goodwin has been living in for the past 4 years, which some people may initially think, how could someone do that? That's unrealistic. But actually, we mentioned this briefly earlier in the commentary as well, but there was this man named Christopher Thomas Knight, who is also known as the Maine Hermit or the Last True Hermit. And he was this dude who lived in the woods in central Maine for like over 30 years.
Wow, 30?
30 years, not 4, 30. To the point where he became like a folk tale that kids in the region were like, oh, my mom said we have to be behaved or the hermit will come take us away in the night. And everyone did think, stuff would go disappearing from people's houses or whatever, but almost everybody just thought it was, local naughty teens or whatever leaning into the legend. But there was actually this dude out in the middle of nowhere, and he had this insanely robustly stocked bunker. Mm-hmm. There's this great GQ piece all about it that had diagrams of how he set up his bunker and where his different supplies were, and that was a major inspiration for this area.
Part of why he could survive for so long was that he would keep raiding nearby homes and campsites, to get his supplies, and then he would hide all his trash basically in these trash holes, I guess. So when we were designing this space, I was told, just look at this article and diagram for some inspiration, and just make sure to have piles of trash around. But the funny thing is, actually, it was kind of hard as a environment artist to just make a pile of trash. Okay, if I have to make a pile of trash, I now have to do the mental homework of thinking, well, what exactly could he have taken from where?
Exactly.
Because even though it's just a pile of trash, but what is actually in the trash and what I'm going to model kind of does, need to make sense and needs to tell a story of you can't just have random TV sets, for example.
Yeah, or a big old car tire or something.
Yeah, that he wouldn't have stolen something like that.
And then the actual shape of the bunker itself, that was more based on these old Native American structures that are actually in Point Reyes, California. Oh. Jake, I think, had seen them or maybe been up there or something. But there were this tribe of Miwok Native Americans who built these underground bunker smokehouse type things. The winters in Maine may be a bit cold, but obviously they don't compare in the least to the high altitude Wyoming national forests. So in all honesty, Goodwin probably should have froze to death winter 1. Ended up way more like Christopher McCandless than the main hermit, but poetic license.
Yeah. And the cool thing, I guess, about this space, too, is if you go all the way to the end where there is a big window, if you look out there, you can see Henry's tower and also Delilah's tower. That's actually where both of those towers are. We didn't cheat it at all. So Jake did a really good job picking that spot for this bunker.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite moments where you get out to that opening and you realize that, not only has he been listening in, but he's literally been able to kind of watch you two the whole time. Yeah. You can kind of imagine in your head, as Goodwin was listening on his conversation, he was looking back and forth between the two towers as Henry and Delilah were talking.
Yeah.
It's a very wonderful voyeuristic moment.
Yeah. What a creepy dude.
There's a clothesline. On to some of Brian's things, his wizards and wyverns.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he found it riveting.
God.
What?
Nothing, just some of Brian's stuff. Brian was a nice-looking kid.
Yeah.
Goodwin was the one who wrote the reports I found at the site. He wrote down everything he did to us, and everything he did every day. He was scared shitless.
I bet.
You should see some of the stuff he was working on. I guess he had a lot of time on his hands.
I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. I don't know what you want me to say. We're in the middle of a fire that is at 22,000 acres and growing. Fast.
It's gonna burn all of this up.
Well, take a picture if you're so keen to remember it.
You're not?
I don't know.
Well, I took a photo.
And take a long look and let's go.
This boombox looks familiar.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, Sean.
So we are here in Ned Goodwin's survival bunker. Something you'll notice, dear player, is all of his journalistic writings and logs are all over the walls, and you may or may not have read them. And you may or may not have read them because Firewatch isn't really a game that makes you passively digest written materials, like a game like Gone Home, or a game that tells all of its story through logs and journals you find around the world. And that was kind of a design challenge, as a lot of this game was, because so much, when you pick up an important note in Firewatch, Henry will sort of react, and then when you tell Delilah about it, he'll condense it down to a sentence or two about what the point of it is, and then they'll have a conversation about it. But that's not really on the table here, because the helicopter's coming and Henry and Delilah are sort of a little bit further apart. We kind of walked ourselves into a challenge of being able to check all the boxes about who exactly was Ned and what exactly did he have his hand in, and then presenting you a scene that is completely passive to digest, which was difficult, I think.
Yeah, and part of the reason we have to do that is because in games that really lean on you reading a bunch of text throughout the world, generally speaking, those protagonists are either silent or they have prescribed responses to things. Our game is all the dialogue really is contingent on your choices, and so we can't assume you actually read all the words on the page. We basically had to make a call for each note whether, okay, we're just going to let this player read it or not, or we're making the call that Henry explicitly read it in the fiction and he will state its contents or make explicit acknowledgement of the useful information inside of it. And we just had to, and it just didn't, as you say, just in Goodwin's bunker, it didn't seem to make sense to require all of that. So we basically said, okay, regardless of what Henry does, we have to allow for the player to absorb all this stuff. And we will put all the information in the story there. It's all there if you want to read it. You don't technically have to.